Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to my first video in a while. I haven't really done anything for YouTube since the Paradigm Pro days, and that site unfortunately kind of just randomly died. Like, people stopped making content for it and whatnot. But anyway, I dabbled a bit in streaming, for anyone who's been following me, twitch.tv/ZedterChan, and eventually XSplit went out of beta, and I dabbled with Flash Media Live Encoder, and then it didn't work very well, or worked well for a while and then kind of died. But anyway, I found this new program today called FFSplit, which is like a free version of XSplit, slightly less functionality, but so far from what I can tell, I really like it. And so I'm going to be using that, and I'm going to be doing more YouTube and more streams. So that's pretty sweet. I'm going to sort of relaunch all my social media and whatnot on this Friday, which is the 27th of July, 2012. Today's Wednesday, obviously, so I'm going to record this a little bit in advance. I had a good friend of mine do a bunch more graphics for like my Twitch, my YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, whatnot, and my Moto background, so that's pretty sweet. So yeah, just gonna be a kind of little relaunch. Start producing a lot more content now that I'm kind of settled into my routine with my new summer job. Anyway, so I've been playing a lot of Innistrad Block lately, namely because Popper and Mummer have been paying out M12 packs, which are worth almost nothing, like 2 to 3 tickets if you're lucky. And so Block is the format that I've been playing a lot of. I've been playing a bit of Standard. I have Delver on another account, but since I'm only started playing Standard like a month ago, like I'm not as good at Delver as everyone else is. So anyway, go and bring you some Block, because the format is still going to be around for 3 months or whatever, and it doesn't change with M13. And I actually find the format pretty fun. So as to, like, if anyone remembers, pre-Avison Restored, I was very, very competent with Boros. I felt I was one of the best Boros players on Magic Online, and was extremely confident in playing the mirror and sideboarding for it. And I was doing very, very well in dailies. And then, of course, Avison Restored came out, and there were a few things that happened with Avison Restored. As Restored came out, there was a Mox, right? And so for the Mox, I played the Sam Black Bant Spirits deck, simply because the Mox started at something ridiculous, like 11 p.m. my time, and for an 11-round tournament or something like that, or 9 p.m., something ridiculous. And I wanted a completely uninteractive deck where I had to make 0 decisions, so that if I was dead tired, like I was, I, could still play it and be reasonably competent. Anyway, also because I had bought Geist of St. Drafts. Because I had a bunch of ticks. Anyway, so tried that deck. Deck became really, really inconsistent. Think the deck's actually quite bad now. Then you have... then I dabbled a bit with Mono Red, and I dabbled a bit with Boros, with the stock Boros list. But what really frustrated me was how the Boros mirror went from being who could sideboard well and make optimal plays and have a very good list. It went from that to being who could resolve Riders of Gavany first, and I really didn't like that. Riders of Gavany is this guy. He pretty much gives your team protection from their team and makes the game completely non-interactive in the Boros mirror, and so I really didn't like that. Anyway, but eventually after a while, I sort of found my bearings. I switched up my list a lot. I cut a bunch of the cards that didn't do anything. I put cards in that did do things, and then started winning again, right? And I was 3-1 dailies pretty consistently. And then only about last week, I decided that the best deck, the best deck in the format is Jund. Anyone who tells you anything else is lying. And when I say Jund, I mean Avison's Pilgrim, Borderland Ranger, Huntmaster of the Fells based decks, and Wolf Your Silverheart. Those cards, you can have a bunch of different options. Some splash away for Restoration Angel, some play Abundant Growth, some play Scorned Villagers, some play Bonfires, some play Devil's Plays, Aristocrats, whatever. Anyway, that is the tier 1 deck. It's something involving Huntmaster, Wolf, or Silverheart, Avison's Pilgrim, and Borderland Ranger. And so that deck those decks are very, very good. They're doing very powerful things and have a very good late game. And ways to deal with you in the early game. And so after being I was probably 50-50 versus Jund, which is better than most Boros players. Jund is actually just favored in the Boros matchup straight up. And so but I was able to play reasonably well and eventually get there semi-consistently. But then last week I decided, you know what? There's so much Jund online. It's ridiculous how much Jund there is. then I might as well just pre-sideboard for it. And so I started doing that, and have been actually doing very, very well. I played a Premier event for the first time ever in my Magic Online career. I just randomly played a Premier event this Sunday and got 4th, playing this pre-sideboarded versus Jund Boros deck. And then I forwarded a daily yesterday, and I've been doing quite well. Fair few 3-1 finishes and whatnot. But anyway, so let's talk about the deck, and less about me and my thoughts on the format. So there are some cards in the deck that are like your core. Every Boros deck nowadays, it's pretty much, it's 4 Champion, 4 Stormkirk Noble, 4 Cloistered Youth, like 3 Fiend Hunter, 4 Silverblade Paladin, 4 Hellrider, and like 1 Devil's Play. Like, these cards are almost non-negotiable. You will always play these cards. And then they run 1 second, just talking to a friend. Anyway, okay, so, you know, these cards are like, you're pretty much standards. So, then how you build these other, like, 12 cards, right? Your 12 cards and then your mana base is what characterizes your Boros build on your sideboard. So, first off, is your removal suite, right? And I'll go through the traditional stuff before I go through how I sideboard versus Jund. So, I like Thalias, personally. They are an excellent 2-drop that are able to slow down the Jund draws that are based off like multiple Evolving Wilds Tragic Slip, and sometimes that's just very good. They weaken hardcast bonfires, like non-miracled ones, significantly by moving like Bonfire for 1 to turn 4 or to 4 mana instead of 3 mana. Like, that's actually a very significant thing. Gives you time to like play humans, to put your champions, make your champions bigger, get in a hit with your Stormkirk, or flip your Cloistered Youth, right? Like, those creatures all become much better once you give them a slight buff, because then it makes their bonfires cost like a bunch more mana. Alright, so that's why I like Thalia. Also, the 2-1 first strike, everything in Jund in like the first 4 turns is like an X2, and so Thalia just like crushes them in combat. Same with Cloistered Youth, right? Just being a 3/3, it lets to make favorable attacks into like Huntmaster, the Fells, and Wolf tokens, in conjunction with your other spells. So I really like that. So Thalia has been doing very well. Other removal spells, I like Fiend Hunter. I think 4 Fiend Hunters is almost like undoubtedly correct. I love this card so much. It does so much work. It's really good on defense. It's really good at killing like, or getting rid of like big like Wolfir Silverheart-esque cards. Reasonably good against Falconwrath Aristocrat, although if they kill it, it's kind of awkward because of the haste. But very happy with Fiend Hunter. Also gets rid of tokens permanently, which is like not a trivial thing. Like being able to get rid of a Garruk token and attack, or like force a chump block by getting rid of the Wolf token from a Huntmaster, very relevant. So 4 Fiend Hunter is like also very good in the mirror against like Stormkirk Nobles and Champions, and like the stuff that grows. And against like random, like any green deck, it's also pretty good against. So that's a Fiend Hunter. Brimstone Volleys. Sometimes the list I think run like 3 Brimstone, 3 Fiend Hunter. I went down to 2 Brimstone just because there aren't that many times when it's great. Like it's good. Like it's really good at killing Hellriders. It's good because sometimes you just need to kill a Huntmaster of the Fells, or it flips and you die. So it's good there. It's good for taking out Garruk. It does good work, right? It's nothing great, but it's a card I'm pretty happy to play, and you'll finish people off with it. But just because of space in the deck, I cut down on Brimstones because it also doesn't deal with the creatures that are a huge problem. Like, it doesn't deal with Wolfir Silverheart reliably, and it doesn't deal with like even just like Strangleroo Geist. It's bad against. It's also bad against like the only thing it's really good at, like Falconwrath Aristocrat's like pretty meh. Like the only thing it's really good against is like Garruk and like Huntmaster, kind of, but like you have to tap 3 mana to kill a Huntmaster, and I would rather like be able to Pillar of Flame it and then play a dude in the same turn instead of having to time walk myself just to not die at this Huntmaster. Okay, and so here we come to the sort of choices that are non-obvious, that are what I feel gives me a better chance against the Jund decks in the format. And remember, by Jund I mean like any of those decks based off those cards I mentioned earlier. Alright, so let's talk with like the ones that are like sort of most mainstream and go to some of the more awkward ones. So Zealous Conscript is a card that's been absolutely fantastic for me in block. It creates complete blowouts because people will often like just leave however many blockers they need to block, the majority of the damage from your team, and then will attack with everything else. Well, Zealous Conscript completely screws that up. And since you're going to be putting so much pressure on them in the early game, Zealous Conscript is almost always like swinging for game, right? Like just playing a conscript, and if they have any good creature, you'll either win the game immediately or be very far ahead. So yeah, Zealous Conscript has been very good. Pillar of Flame. Pillar of Flame card, also very, very impressive with this. It's really good in the mirror at killing their 1-drops. It's good against the Jund decks by killing the Avacyn's Pilgrims that they'll play, and Huntmasters, just for a very cheap man. Delaying their mana, like making it so that they have to cast Huntmaster on turn 4 instead of turn 3 is a huge deal, because like you can put more pressure on them, and then make them have to play a defensive Huntmaster instead of a Huntmaster where they can kind of just stall out, flip it, and kill you. Good against Avacyn. Then it kills the Huntmaster when it actually comes in, lets you still play like a 2-drop or whatever on turn 3. Yeah, just been very good. And Stranglehold Geist is also, it's just like, it is quite a problem for this deck if you don't have like Fiend Hunter or Pillar of Flame. So, yeah. So that's Pillar of Flame. Really like it. Alright. I'm going to go to Smite the Monstrous. Now, this is like sort of the most obvious card. Like, Zealous Conscript and Pillar of Flame, like, they seem like a reasonable main deck card. But Smite the Monstrous is like pretty unusual to play in your main deck. And not even enough people play in their sideboards, I think. But this card is just very, very good at killing the creatures that are how Jund goes over the top, right? So the Jund deck, because your mana is so, like, bad, like, you have to play a lot of mana sources. Like, you play 4 Pilgrim, and then you play some number of Scorn Villagers and or Abundant Growths, depending on your I guess the Jund player's preference, in addition to Borderland Rangers, and then all your lands. And then, so the Jund deck will flood out often in the late game, and have 1 or 2 big-ish threats that are very, very powerful, and that will hopefully overtake the game for them, right? Cards like Wolfir Silverheart, Falconwrath Aristocrat, Huntmaster, and Garruk, right? Like, those are their big... Those are how they are winning the game. They are not winning the game by just, like, playing Borderland Rangers. Like, unless they have their one of Wolf Run, right? Like, then, like, that's very good. And then you might be in trouble. But anyway, so Smite the Monster is really good at punishing the Jund players for not playing overly safe. Killing a Silverheart is a huge deal. Killing a Silverheart when they attack you with whatever guy they soul bonded, and then being able to kill it for free is really good. And the play that I make most often, that's often a huge blowout, is when they have a Falconwrath Aristocrat and then like a random guy, like an Avacyn's Pilgrim, you attack with like your 3/3, like a Cloistered Youth or Thalia, right? You attack with that, right? They will block with Falconwrath Aristocrat. They will sack the Pilgrim to give it indestructibility and +1/+1, and then you respond and you smite it, and it feels so good. Like, that line happens a lot. And so being able to get rid of their big threats is actually very relevant, because then you can kind of hope on them flooding out a little bit later. Whereas you'll be able to put more pressure on them and finish them out. And, like, just destroying their like, if they have like 2 guys on defense, one of which is a Silverheart, and it's pumping it, so they have a 5/5 and an 8/8, and normally like this deck just can't get through that. Like, I guess Fiend Hunter is your only way, but like Smite just gives you a permanent answer, so I really like that. Then finally we have this card that I've argued with like people a lot about, and that's Banishing Stroke. I originally had it as a 2 of in the sideboard, and then cut it down to 1, and I'm still not sure if I want it, but Banishing Stroke is a card that I think everyone underestimates, but I think I might overrate it slightly. Just, like, getting to 6 mana is not something that you really want to happen in this deck, because you're an aggro deck, and you want to kill them, but, like, you do flood out, right? You do flood out, and sometimes you just need a random, like, catch-all, right? And Banishing Stroke does that. In addition, just having 1 mana, like, get rid of target permanent that is bothering you is very nice when you miracle it, and, like, you can almost always cast it for a single white off the top. So yeah, you randomly will get ahead in games. Unlike a Bonfire, which is a very splashy card that turns the tide of the game in a very obvious way, Banishing Stroke is a card that turns the tide of the game very significantly in a subtle way. Like, just getting rid of a Falconwrath Aristocrat or getting rid of a Huntmaster just for 1 mana is very good. And since you only run 1, the odds of you drawing in your opening hand are quite low. But then drawing off a miracle is quite good and lets you continue to put lots of pressure on them while taking a minimal tempo loss to cast a removal spell. So that's my argument for Banishing Stroke, okay? Now I'm just going to talk about the mana base. And the mana base in Boros is something that is, well, it's pretty bad. And I play a greedier version of it than most people. So if you remember my previous experience with Boros, if you watched on my Twitch stream or anything, pre-Avacyn Restored, the reason I did so well with Boros was I played like a full 2 mountains more than everyone else, and then didn't play garbage double white casting cost spells like Loyal Cathar and Elite Inquisitor, and I just wanted to get my red mana, my double red reharder just all the time, and like my opponents would stumble and they would play these random 2-drops that just didn't do anything, and then I would crush them, right? And they would complain about being mana screwed. And especially when I was playing multiple Devils plays, you wanted the extra mountain. So that was really important. Back then, I don't think the deck played Stormkirk Noble. And now you can, because your mana's gotten slightly better with Cavern. So anyway, we play 4 Clifftop Retreat, and then 8 of each basic land. Yeah, you have 2 1-drops you really want to cast on turn 1, and so you really can't afford to, like... So yeah, you can't afford to, like, focus too heavy on one or the other side, which does lead to potential for color screw. Then the last 4 land slots, most people play 4 Cavern of Souls. And I could play 4 Cavern of Souls, and I did for a long time. But the thing is Cavern of Souls is not a mana fixer per se. Like, it will fix your mana for 1 turn, right? Like, there are so few times when you, like, the only time you ever tap Cavern for, like, multiples is if you're naming it for human, or you'll ever tap Cavern for its colored source and have it be relevant as a colored source. Or as if you name human, because we have so many double white cards, in which case it might as well be a basic Plains, right? Or if you name Devil, and you have, like, a multiple Hellrider draw, right? Everything else it's like a Tendo Ice Bridge. There, let's find Tendo Ice. Oh, cancel. Yeah. So Tendo Ice Bridge is a card from, I think, Betrayers of Kamigawa. It comes into play with a counter on it. You can tap remove the counter for 1 mana of any color, and then you can just tap it for colorless. Alright, Tendo Ice Bridge. Show it to me. Oh, I have to uncheck my cards. There we go, Tendo Ice Bridge. Yeah. So, the reason Cavern of Souls is like Tendo Ice Bridge is that oftentimes you'll have to play it on 1. Like, you'll have a hand of, like, Cavern of Souls, Clifftop Retreat, like a bunch of guys or whatever, or Cavern of Souls, Plains, and a bunch of guys. And you'll have to, like, play Cavern of Souls and, like, name Vampire or name Human until you draw just, like, another basic land. And then it, like, becomes irrelevant as to what you named with Cavern for the most part. Naming Vampire with Cavern of Souls feels really, really shitty. Like, you never want to do that, but you have to. Just because you want double red for Hellrider, because Hellrider is, like, the best card in your deck. And every time you play a Cavern named Vampire, that means you have to draw 2 more red sources before you can cast a Hellrider. And you've already used one of your red sources up. So, that's how it's kind of like Tendo Ice Bridge. Alright, yeah, anyway, so I play 3 Cavern of Souls, and because I found that they weren't fixing my mana as much, and they were oftentimes just like a colorless land, I decided to play a Slayer's Stronghold. This is obviously a straight colorless land, and this is a very greedy choice on my part. Like, you probably should play like another Cavern, and you would get color screwed less often than I do. And, like, there are some times when I draw this Slayer's Stronghold, I'll be like, man, I fucking wish this was a Cavern of Souls. But many more times than that are when I draw this Slayer's Stronghold, and it'll make it's really good when you're top decking. Because, like, in the old, without Stronghold, a Boros deck top decking will lose to almost every other deck top decking unless you top deck Hellrider or like Devil's Play, right? Or Zealous Conscripts, right? Just because you have to like play a random dude, hope they can't deal with it, or play a creature that is like just bigger than it. With Slayer's Stronghold, both of those concerns are nullified, right? Every creature in your deck is live as like a threat to just deal them damage, and oftentimes like if you're top decking against Jund, like it's just huge. And also, like, you can trade up, right? Like, if my opponent has say, like, they have, like, an unpaired Wolf or Silverheart, right? Like, they were top deck and they ripped a Silverheart with no other guys in play. And I draw Thalia or something like that, then obviously I'm still ahead, right? Or I'm able to pressure them. And since I should hopefully be at a higher life total because I'm the aggro deck, then my pressure can either force blocks or lead to a game. So that's why I really like Slayer's Stronghold, and it's been very good for me so far. Like, it's sometimes really bad, but I really like it, and I'm happy I have this. Going to the sideboard, we have a few more cards. We have 2 more Pillars of Flame. These are for often, depending on the variety of Jund deck they play. Like, if they play more Strangaroo Geists, or if they're green red with Strangaroo Geists, then you want these. These are also very good against zombies, because they exile Butcher Ghouls, Blood Artists, like, to not trigger the Blood Artists, Giralf's Messengers, and everything. And Grave Crawlers, right? So, all-star card there. We have another Brimstone Volley. I'm not sure if this should be in here, but it's like, this definitely should be in here. It's for the Boros Mirror. Because Riders of Gavany is so insane in the mirror, you need to be able to kill Riders of Gavany. And since we only run 2 Brimstones, it's 2 Brimstones and a Devil's Play main, and a Banishing Stroke as our ways to kill their, because Fiend Hunters will not do it because they have protection from humans. You need a few more outs to it. Then you have Slayer of the Wickeds. These are for zombies pretty much. They kill zombies, and they also kill the Falconeth Aristocrats they play, so that's really good. And they also kill Blood Artists, so that's what that's for. Riders of Gavany, as I mentioned, are just a complete house in the Boros Mirror, also very good against zombies. You just give your team pro zombies and they can't do anything. In the Boros Mirror, you give your team pro humans and they can't do anything. Then we have Nearheath Pilgrim. Again, that's for those same decks, kind of. Because we're pre-boarded against Jund, we then have more cards for the other matchups. So that's why I'm kind of focusing on those. So it's very hard to lose games 2 and 3. Pilgrim's just insane. Like, it lets you race really easily. Pilgrim has very good synergy with Hellrider, because the Hellrider triggers are still affected by the Pilgrim's lifelink. So, yeah, it lets you race. Like, if you both have a Hellrider and you have a Nearheath Pilgrim, you will, like, always win the race. Grafdigger's Cage is for Reanimator. It's also like the Angels of Glory's Arise deck. There's also like the Miracle deck, if anyone still plays that. This stops their Feeling of Dreads, or it gives them half-life, which is actually very much worth the card. Especially when you're boarding out cards like Fiend Hunter that just don't do anything in that matchup anyway. And it stops them from like Snapcastering stuff. So yeah, that's the Grafdigger's Cage. Blasphemous Act is for the Mirror on the draw. And it's also for like random like red green sometimes, depending on their list, like if they're not running Predators or anything like that. Blasphemous Act's really good. I also bring it in against Miracles. Like, that deck's not very good anymore. But like it's like you're only out to like a massive amount of angels from Entreat the Angels. And then these Archwing Dragons are a card that have been overperforming ridiculously, and I actually only have Archwing Dragons because I played them in mono red during my brief stint, and they were like one of the best cards in my sideboard and eventually main deck. It's just like one of the best mana sinks. Like, I don't know if this or Devil's Play is a better mana sink, but Devil's Play can kill random utility creatures, so that's why it gets the nod in the main deck. But 4 mana for 4 damage a turn recurring is unbelievably good in block. There's just like, there are very few ways to deal with Archwing Dragon. Like, they are Smite the Monstrous, a Morbid Tragic Slip, and a Morbid Brimstone Volley are really the only ways that people are playing to like just deal with an Archwing Dragon. And so what I like Archwing Dragon against is decks that are really grindy and slow, and then interact with your board at sorcery speed. So any sort of like 2 or 3 color control deck, I love it against. Like the Miracles deck, I love it against. It's like also 4 mana, deal 4 to target Planeswalker is really good. So if your opponent's playing some sort of Planeswalker deck, that's really good. Like in the matchups where it's good, Archwing Dragon is just completely insane. So yeah, that's the deck. I went in pretty in depth, but that's because I feel that this is definitely a different deck than what everyone else is playing, and I think I have a reasonable understanding of how the deck works, and I really like where I'm at with this deck right now. So yeah, that's the deck. I'm probably gonna play it daily tonight. I know Moto was bugged for constructed events, so hopefully that gets resolved and I can play daily. If not, I'll record a daily and just attach this intro to it. All right, see you in round 1.